Hey, welcome to church. I'm Shane. We're getting to meet you all and know you all, and you're getting to know us, which is pretty cool. And yeah, we didn't move here for the weather, but it is a lot better than some other places we've been. And it's 2024 now. There's something about 2024. You know when we thought there was something about 2020 and then we got it all wrong? Well, 2024 is going to be different. Don't say it. Yeah, good point. Well, it's a bit boomy. Got me? Last week on New Year's Eve, Pastor Emily started and brought us a message from Hebrews 12. And she talked about throwing off everything that hinders us, running with perseverance, and fixing our eyes on Jesus. Pretty good message. I thought it was pretty good. It's one of my favorite preachers. And it was a really good start to the year. Today I want to continue on from the same passage in Hebrews 12. And kind of look back so we can look forward. Because sometimes we have to look back so that we can be encouraged, we can be inspired to keep moving forward. The passage I'm using today is Hebrews 12. And I've got the Message version simply because it speaks a bit more Australian like Shane does. And it says, do you see what this means? All these pioneers who blazed the way, all those veterans cheering us on. It means we better get on with it, strip down, start running, and never quit. With no extra spiritual fat, no parasitic sin. I almost say that wrong. Keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished the race we are in. This passage is talking about the disciplines of a long race, a long distance race, the disciplines to follow Christ. Now, I always think of a long race as something that is way too daunting. I'm not a sprinter. I'm not necessarily a long distance runner. I try to get fit, and as Emily said the other week, we were running 5K every other day for a while. That was hard work. A long distance race. We've got some friends that have just completed a couple of marathons, and I'm like, if you don't have your car with you, there's always taxis or Ubers. That's a long way to run. There are other options. You don't have to necessarily go that way. But to run a race, we need endurance. But we also need to train. We need to get prepared. And really, none of us have trained for life, have we? We just sort of started it. We just were born, and we're doing the best with what we've got. So one of the most important things is, I believe, to look back so that we can move forward. This week I've had the privilege, Wendy and Keith gave me a bunch of CDs and documents and all the details about the 100 years celebration of the Grain Shed. Church of Christ Swan Hill. Wow. What are we, 114 now? 114. 114 years. That is cool. That is cool. There's a couple of boxes that we found just before Christmas in the office that Keith brought in. And I opened up these boxes and I'm like, what is in these boxes? Because it says, do not throw out on the outside of the box. That's weird. There's going to be something odd in here. So I opened up the box, and inside are the most beautiful, amazing, leather-bound minute books from the early 1900s. And the smell, you might go either way on this one. The smell was amazing. Like it was just vintage. It was amazing. But have a look at some of these photos. We got that first one there, Wendy. There it is. Church across Swan Hill. Does anybody remember this location? Yeah, there's some hands. Yep. How about that? Yep, that's where we are right now. The grain shed. And here we are, a few years later. I got to tell you that I am super duper thankful for the trailblazers that have gone before us. The veterans. Yeah, come on. The people that have sown blood, sweat, tear, and finance into this house. They've gone before us and they've invested into this house. And just like it says here in Hebrews, they didn't do this so that we can just sit around. They wanted, and they are cheering us on. And some of you are still sitting here, yeah? You're cheering us on. You're cheering Emily and myself on. And we appreciate that. And we are looking forward to the future. Sometimes I find myself flagging when I'm looking ahead. And so I find it really important to look back at things like this and review the game tape. You know what a game tape is? Yeah, I don't play a lot of sport, but football clubs, they look back at the game they've played. They review how they went on the offensive or the defensive. Basketball teams, big people that know what they're doing, review how they did it last so that they can learn. Reviewing the game tape gives us inspiration. It gives us inspiration because we've all come from somewhere, and that journey generally hasn't been smooth, has it? There's been bumps, there's been lumps, there's been ups and downs, there's been twists and there's turns, but we survived. We're still here. We're all still breathing this morning. Phew. It gives inspiration because we can then see the fingerprints of God on our life. When we stop for a moment and we look back. When we look back on our own lives. When we look back on the life of the church. We can see those moments where God put his hand into the situation and he changed it. And left a fingerprint for us. It also helps us on a practical note so that we can see how we need to improve. Yeah, I know, right? It's all good to look back and go, oh, it's amazing, God's done wonderful things, but oh, I need to do something different. Yeah. You know, when the athlete looks back at their game tape, their sole purpose is to find out how they can improve, how they can do whatever that is that they're doing better. So they can understand how their body moves, how their body delivers power to the ground so they can thrust themselves forward. So that they can predict the opposition better. They can be smarter about how they play the game. Teams spend hours reviewing their performance with one single aim, that is to improve. to become better. Jesus said that one day we're going to review the game tape. Every idle word we're going to go through. So I think it's probably a good idea that we look back now so that we can improve ourselves, change ourselves for the future. On that day of judgment, we're going to sit down with God and review our tape. It may not look great, the first part of it, but from here on in, it can be different. From here forward, it can be different because we take a moment to assess, to review, to change. And when we sit down to look at our game tape, we're going to ask ourselves some questions. How did I handle that situation? How did I handle that conversation? Was I Christ-like? How did I turn that actually into an argument? I'm pretty sure it was them, but it could have been me. Nah, it wouldn't have been me. Did I just miss that opportunity? That opportunity to encourage someone, to help someone? Did I represent Jesus well today? Did I lose my cool again? When we review our game tape, there's a couple ways we can do it. We can do it in private, in prayer, sitting still, reflecting, or we can do it in godly counsel. Ooh. Yeah, having a conversation with someone. A conversation with someone where you can unpack some highlights off of your game tape without criticism, without judgment, without blame, without shame. So that we can react better, we can respond better, we can talk better, we can initiate conversations better, we can live better, love better, serve better, lead better. And most of all, learn from the past. In Ephesians, Paul writes and encourages to throw off our old self and put on a new self. We have to keep reviewing and renewing. And if we can do this, we'll rewrite our game book. I used to, when I was a kid, watch the American NFL. You know, that game where they put helmets on because they're too soft? And they run at each other and try to get the ball across the line. And then I used to play it on a, what was it? A Sega Mega Drive? Yeah, it was after Atari. Which Gary Greason's still got an Atari I want to play one day. And on the game, you had to choose what play you were going to do, how the people were going to run. And they're really particular about it in the NFL, about having playbooks, and they call the different play. Soccer do the same thing. Basketball, everybody does a very similar thing. How we go offensive and how we go defensive. They have a plan about how they're going to do it. All written in the game book. Our game book, you and I have one. Did you know that? Well, I'm going to call it a game book. It's this part where we intuitively do stuff. You ever noticed how you just do stuff? You avoid a conversation. You have to go to the toilet at the wrong time or the right time. It's how we start things, how we don't finish things. It's how we love, avoid, encourage, how we attack sometimes. Ooh, there's some good stuff in the game book, and there's a whole heap of things that may need improvement. But if we can review the game tape and ask questions, we can rewrite our game book. How we handle ourselves, how we represent Christ, how we avoid sin, how we push other people away, or how we connect with people. These are all things that we do intuitively. The way that we do stuff. When we can understand our game book by watching our game tape, we can change. We can improve. We can run the long distance race well. We will come up against some problems, but Hebrews 12 says, study how he did it, Jesus, because he never lost sight of where he was heading. That exhilarating finish, as you cross the line. That exhilarating finish, and with God, he could put up with anything along the way. Jesus could put up with anything along the way because he moved closer to God. He was. We run the risk of doing things the same old way all the time, like any sports team. Our opposition will beat us every single time because they can see how we do it. If we never change, the opposition will beat us. The devil, his plan is to take you down, out of the game. His plan is to burn you out, get you exhausted, and to get you sitting on the bench, just like this guy. Where is he? Go, Wendy. Where's the dude on the bench? There he is. Sitting on the bench. Now, this guy looks like he's been there for a little while. Not only is he turned to concrete, but he's got moss growing on him. Often we get on the bench for far too long. Now, Jesus, he went and removed himself. At different times, he went and withdrew from the crowds so that he could sit and spend time with the Father. But you got to know when to get on the bench and when to get off the bench. Hebrews 12 says, so don't sit around on your hands. No more dragging your feet. Clear the path for the long distance runners so no one will trip and fall. So no one will step in a hole and sprain an ankle. I don't want to do that. Help each other out and run for it. We can all sit on the bench, and it's okay to sit on the bench because running a long distance race is tiring. It's okay to sit down for a minute. All right. And off we go. We run again. One of the most exciting parts of 2024 is that the Olympics are back on. I kind of love the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics because I love seeing men and women push themselves beyond their limit, to represent their countries, to put all their practice and energy and training into, let's face it, like 10 seconds sometimes. Years and years of training for the shortest moment of time. To jump off of a diving board and get what? 2.5 seconds to do an amazing flip. My most favorite event in the Olympics is the 100-meter sprint. And there's a fella, you might know him, Usain Bolt, the world's fastest man. Look at him, just giddy about winning. Like there's no chance for those other lads. Usain Bolt, the fastest man, 9.6 seconds, I think his world record holds that. 100 meters, far out. The world says that he shouldn't be able to do it. Usain Bolt has spina bifida, curvature of the spine. The world says that he's too tall to run that fast. He's huge. His running style is sloppy. They say when he takes off, he loses far too much energy off the start line. But he's a world record holder. What does the world know about running? Through all his worldly imperfections, he's the fastest man alive because he didn't give up. I remember a few Olympics ago watching Scott Redden. He represented Australia in the 100 metres in the Paralympics, and he won gold in 12.26 seconds. Not very far off of Usain's pace, really, particularly when you're running with one leg. With one leg. The fastest man with one leg is an Aussie. We all have issues. We all have limitations. We can choose to let those limitations stop us and keep us on the bench, turning to concrete and growing some moss. Or we can get up off of the bench and we can get moving. For some of us, it's not going to be a 100-meter sprint. It's a long race. It's a long journey. But the destination is Jesus. And Jesus has made it. Jesus has run the race. And he won. He's championing us on. He's calling us forward. We can sit and ponder and plan and dream, or we could wallow in our sorrows, talk down to ourselves. There's so many options for sitting on the bench. Or we can get up and we can run. We could stagger. We could hold someone else's hand while we move forward. Reviewing the game tape is something I just encourage you today, this week, just for a moment, look back. And there might be pain, there might be hurt, there might be frustration in your past. I want you to see what Jesus sees when you look back. I want you to see that he helped you overcome. and move forward. I want you to see the fingerprints of God so that maybe you can just remember the love, the sacrifice that Jesus has for you. So that 2024, you can get up and move forward. We find a way when we look back to improve and to review. As the band comes, improvement hurts at times. We have to put our hand up and say, oh yeah, okay, can someone help me out with this? One of the best ways we can do that in a community such as this is to get involved in a small group, a connect group. Very soon we're going to launch our connect groups again into 2024. These are spaces where you can sit, you can share, you can laugh, you can cry, you can have cups of tea and drink biscuits. You'll remember that. Now, connect groups are a space where you can find like-minded people, be encouraged and inspired. One of the most important things is just to identify the bench. And if you've been sitting there for far too long, as we move forward into 2024, we're going to be talking about turning the house into our home. There's many things that we want to do in the community that the church has shared with us before we got here about the community impact and involvement that the Grain Shed has and desires to have to represent Christ in Swan Hill and the region. There's many things that we want to do in that space, but we can't do it with a lot of bench warmers. We're going to be launching new teams and inviting people to join our teams because we need to work together as the church, the gathered church, to share the light of Jesus in Swan Hill. Over these next weeks, months, we're going to be inviting you into a space where you can join a connect group and you can get involved in a team. You can be a part of the church being active. It may be a small commitment, or you might be like, I'm gonna lead this thing. It all depends on where we're at, what time we have, and how Jesus is calling us to serve. May I pray? Jesus, we thank you for the past that is behind us. We ask that you show us the things that we can learn from our past. Show us the spaces, the groups, the people where we can share our story. Share what we've learned. We thank you, Jesus, that as we move forward, you prompt us to get up off of the bench. Those who are of us that are on the bench, to get moving. Speak to us and show us the opportunities, show us the places where we can serve. Jesus, we thank you that you've brought us this far. and that you went the full distance and won the race for us. We thank you for your favor and your blessing upon us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.